Hello and welcome back to season 2. And we are coming up on episode 140 of Paranormal NL Podcast. That's PNL Podcast for short, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Pocket Cast, and you'll also find us on YouTube. I'm your host, Jen. Now, the fans may already know that I was born and raised in Newfoundland, Canada, went to nursing school here, but then I moved to the USA for 23 years, traveled nursing, and became an American citizen with a dual citizenship. It's election week, so I thought I'd throw on a fun hat to celebrate, but I think I'll turn it around and just leave it off, because we don't want any politics here tonight on our show. So what I want to do right now is I want to give a shout out to the music right now that you're hearing in the background, and that's made by Robert Dumont. He also makes the P&L Podcast official logos. Check him out on season 1, episode 28, with his Devil's Toy Box. It was a 2-part radio episode, and follow him on IMDb. Now, for tonight's show, let's give a big shout out to the P&L Podcast Alumni Network member, with whom I discovered tonight's guest. Let's give a big shout out to Mr. Tommy Collum. Now, Tommy hails from the UK, and he was on P&L Podcast Season 2, Episode 7, and he was on Season 2, Episode 41. Tommy is with Let's Get Freaky Podcast, and he's also part of the Fab Five. And that's Kat Ward from Paranormal Heart Podcast, and she was on P&L Season 2, Episode 18, and she's coming back on again soon. And also, the Fab Five is with Tim Sudano from Scary and Eric with the Uncomfortable Podcast. And, of course, our lovely JJRose, who was on P&L Podcast Season 2, Episode 48, who I have waiting backstage, and I'll introduce soon. Now it's time to pull up your cozy chair and listen into your favorite podcast. Paranormal NL Podcast is a place where the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada, and anywhere else in the world can share their paranormal experiences. P&L Podcast also believes in supporting people, places, and things to promote paranormal tourism and paranormal networking all over the world. A big thank you again to all the P&L Podcast alumni guests from Season 1 and 2, and of course our fans. We want to hear your stories. Do you have any paranormal, UFO, metaphysical, light work, cryptid creatures, folk world, historical books, or just tales of the weird you'd like to share as a guest on my P&L Podcast? Please reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, or Gmail at paranormal.nl.podcast@gmail.com. And remember, after your episode, you'll become part of the P&L Podcast Alumni Network. And make sure you click on the bell and like and subscribe and follow along on whatever platform you're listening in on to get updates for new episodes. And head on over to Facebook and join our group. We'd love to see you there. It's the Paranormal Podcast and Bog Team group. It's the official place to hang out in a fun and a safe space, and find upcoming new P&L episodes in the featured section of the group. And we also have a new branch of the Paranormal NL Podcast with the P&L Bog Team. It's a boots-on-the-ground paranormal investigation team doing local historical investigations in Newfoundland. And our fans asked us, the Paranormal NL Podcast and the P&L Bog Team merch are now available on TeePublic, with official logos designed again by P&L Podcast Alumni Network member Robert Dumont, who was on Season 1, Episode 28 in Devil's Toy Box. Now, let's get on with the show tonight. I'm going to go ahead and bring on the stage and turn off some of the music over here. We have coming in all the way from California, from the Pacific Coast, JJRose777. Welcome, JJ.
Hey, Jen. How are you?
Welcome back. Now, you were on, I got to give a few more shout outs to some of the folks who we know. And that's Jace from Wabi Sabi. She was on Season 2, Episode 67. Kim Bishop. She was on Season 2, Episode 7 with her honey, Alan Bishop, way back when I was just doing radio. And you're with the Three Sirens with them. Isn't that correct?
I am, yes.
Yes.
3 sirens and a squirrel.
And the squirrel. Tell me about the squirrel. What? What is this? Three
That's
sirens and a
because
squirrel.
we go on so many mental side quests, so we jokingly call it squirrel.
No, us here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we like mermaids and all kinds of cryptic creatures, and we are an island, and we have all kinds of, um, different stories about sirens with our fishing folk, because we are a fishing community and very heavily Irish. So we got lots of different stories about that for sure.
I love it. We
But
also
yeah,
got our friend Chucky Danger as well.
Chucky, yes, I love Chucky, and you got to check out Chunky's Linktree lines for sure. And Chucky's on Instagram. He was on season 2, episode 50, I want to say, and he was back again in season 2 a little bit later. But let's talk about you and let's talk about your work. I invited you on here tonight because you do a lot of great work with helping people out and teaching people about protection.
Yeah. So, my primary reason why I wanted to make a YouTube channel in the first place was really because I wanted to empower people to be able to do spiritual protection, spiritual clearing, and just energy bubbling to get through the day, times, whatever, life in general, especially those who have gifts or who are more empathically inclined. Because it's rough when there's a lot of emotions going on and you're feeling everything and they're not your feelings, but you're getting bombarded with them. So on my YouTube channel, I do have a playlist called Instructionals, and that's where I have all of these. So if you want to do them a little slower, feel free. But that really was my intent, is just to empower and teach people in order to do this stuff themselves, and also recognize when things are happening so that you can get ahead of it or arrest it early before it becomes a whole situation.
Yeah, because we go into so many different places when we're doing investigations. You never know what's going to hit your ride on the way home, or whether it be spirit, or it could be something around your house that it might be attached to. Because, or even I talked to one person that said, hey, not only should you, cleanse yourself, but also cleanse your equipment because it could travel through your podcast stuff. I was like, what? So,
Yeah. So normally when I am recording, whether it's myself or with somebody else, I'm not only protecting myself, but also the episode,
okay.
so that there's nothing nefarious going out over the airwaves for when people listen to it. Because that's just part of, for myself, responsibility.
Yeah, I like that. And sometimes when we're watching a TV show or something, my husband would be like, "Why did you mute that?" I'm like, I don't want them saying that stuff in our house." He's like, "What do you mean?" He's, well, some people believe and some don't, right?
It's
So,
true. It's true. I mean, I'll bubble the TV if I'm going to watch something really scary, like the Conjuring series type of thing. I'll usually like kind of bubble it, and I'm bubbling myself, the house, in order to make sure that none of that is coming through.
now
And
when you say the
especially,
word bubble to the people who are listening all over the world who don't understand, what does that mean in your terms?
so bubbling for me is basically like, remember Wizard of Oz, Glinda and her bubble, right? So it's like that, but an energy bubble that nothing can get through, especially dark stuff.
I
And
always like to
so,
think about rainbows and like nice, sounds, right? Like bells and things.
yeah, I mean, and the whole reason for it is, again, it's self-empowerment, right? And energy tends to look like bubbles, thoughts or things. And so if energy is bubbles, then I want a giant bubble so that I choose what sticks or what doesn't.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. That's
Right?
a good idea. So, what were you thinking about talking about tonight in particular?
Well, I know we had chatted a little bit. I just kind of wanted to go over spiritual protection and things to think about for your average person, whether you think you're spiritually inclined or not, whether you're doing paranormal investigation or not. And, again, I do spiritual investigation. I'm in a paranormal investigation group. I'm the psychic specialist. And we will actually start, depending on the case and what we're working on, but I actually start protection when we get the case.
Okay.
To keep ourselves away from it, but get enough information about whatever we need. And going in before we even leave for the location, we're all bubbling. And then I do something a little bit different, which your average person is not going to be doing because it's extremely labor intensive and energy heavy. But I actually tether to my team, because technically my team will go in first without me for the technical run through to make sure it's not like a leaky pipe or something like that. But what I'm doing is I'm attached to them. So I'm making sure if any energy is starting to try to attack them, I'm being able to protect them from afar. And that way, when I go in for my run through, because sometimes things like to run from me, which I get it, right? Part of my job duty. That I already kind of know where the problem spots are. And so I can go and focus in on there, as well as retrieve information through other people. And absolutely, like when we're done, we're clearing there. And then we're also clearing again when we're either off the property or off the site, depending
That's really important.
on all of the equipment. Yeah.
Definitely. Tell me a little bit about your team, because I don't think we mentioned them yet.
Yeah, so Tim Sudano is the lead of he's the paranormal team leader, and he's my paranormal partner. We've been working together a lot of years at this point. I'm just looking at what year it is. It's been a long while, over a decade. So the great thing about Tim is we have established trust, and not only do I respect him as the leader and he respects my job, but also we just have a really good friendship and trust that's been earned. And so if I say stop, people stop, and vice versa. If he tells me, I'm telling you, like, this is a technical thing, I listen, unless there's a difference of opinion, in which case, sometimes, rarely is it both, but sometimes it's both. That being said, though, we've done multiple different things. We've experimented just on our own, just to try and test out equipment, as well as just kind of be up on things that are happening. But he also has a YouTube channel where he does his podcast, and it's called Paranormal Insights. And you will see me on there quite a bit. He and I will record episodes on things that we've done. We had a really big case that we finally got out from under the NDA on, that we were able to talk to about with the team. So that was a big one.
Did you want to mention anything about that one, or?
It was wild, girl. Like, I'm gonna fast forward to the ending. Basically, I had negative entities begging me to release them.
Wow.
Yeah. We were not formally informed, well, probably because this person was so good at hiding it, but in essence, the person who asked us to go there had trapped a whole bunch of things over their family line and with that. Yeah. And it was weird from the start. It was going to be filmed, which is why we were under an NDA. And I think this person was really excited, thinking, oh, I'm going to get a film crew in here. I'm going to get, pretty actresses. And then I came along, and I am not an actress at all. And, I really do my job. And it was fascinating because everyone he met, he was super nice to, and he got to me, and he was very rude. And it continued to get worse. I mean, it was an all-day thing.
Wow. Yeah. So it was a difficult one, sounds like.
It was the weirdest one I've done, and I've done some weird stuff.
You never know what or who you're going to come across in the paranormal world.
Yeah, this one was definitely out of left field. So it was I mean, I've had a situation where a person thought that they were being attacked spiritually. And, I went in and checked, and literally their spirit team was sitting there and was like, hey, They're not being possessed. They're not being attacked. They just don't want to learn this specific lesson. And like, they have to learn this lesson. So you need to kick rocks and back off. And I'm like, okay, that was odd. So I did, and eventually they learned their lesson. Thankfully, I was able to find out, how they were doing from a couple other people. And I never abandon anyone. I mean, I'm as truthful as I can be without disrupting the person's path that they need to go on. And that's also a very fine line when you're going to be in a teaching aspect, when you're trying to teach and other people how to do this stuff. I think we all know by now, anything that's rammed down your throat, people tend to back away from, right? So the information's there. And if you're drawn to it, great. And if not, no problem. Do it your way. There's lots of other resources, but I'm not very rigid in how I teach things, but there are specific guidelines for foundational work that I do feel, just because I've been doing this for so long, that have to be met and understood in order to forward oneself down the spiritual path and get to the point where you're doing exorcisms, etc.
Oh, wow. That's a whole nother nutshell right there. So were
Yeah,
there some things that you wanted to talk about with us for the folks listening and watching tonight?
sure. So if you are an empath, if you are a sensitive, if you're the kind of person where you're feeling emotions that aren't yours, they kind of come out of the clear blue, especially during whether it's election time or there's great natural weather disasters going on, or just the ugliness of the world. Let's face it, sometimes stuff just creeps up on us, but you know that it's not you having the reaction that you're having. Some very, very simple ways to get through that. And it doesn't always have to be my way. So I'm going to be very general. First of all, ground. It's get inside your actual body, which most spiritual people don't like to do because we like to be up and out. But even if it's putting your bare feet on the grass or on dirt, I had one person who lived in like a high rise. I said, do you have a potted plant? They said, yes. I said, great. Go put it in the sink and put your hand in the dirt. And they just stood
Okay.
there for like 5 minutes. It can be something as simple as that. I know there are things of earthing and grounding pads that people can buy. I've tried one. I'm not an expert. I always say nature's free. Try it. So, the other thing is
So for the
speak
folks
into.
who like gardening, that's beneficial, grounding.
Oh, completely. I mean, when I garden, I do it barefoot and, bare hands, no gloves, which, I mean, I use a lot of skin cream. We'll put it that way.
I hear you.
But, and I mean, I don't have a tons of thorns and thistles and stuff. I mean, be smart. But something as simple as that. The other thing is we all drink water, or at least we're supposed to. So if you do, speak intention into whatever it is that you're going to be making with the water. Remember, our bodies are 72% and up water. And so if you're going to be imbibing something or even cooking something, speak that intention into it. When you're making your coffee, I'm going to have a great day. Speak that into the water so it can support you. If you're going to bed at night, I'm going to have a marvelous sleep. Speak that intention. It's small, it's little, it's not witchcraft. It's just speaking your intention, right?
It's all
So
about the attitude also, right? I mean, if you start your day off and you're in a positive mood and positive energy, then that's supposed to carry through the day, we hope, right? So kind of that intention,
yeah, and it's not to say you're not going to be affected by things. I mean, good Lord, I live on this planet. I'm affected constantly. So
right?
this is why I have a whole bubbling system that I do. And it all starts with getting in my body, grounding, tree roots into the ground through the bottom of my feet. And then I connect up with spirit, divine, source, universe, God, heaven, whatever you want to call it. And then I do actually a clearing hose from first chakra or the bottom of your lower back, right behind your tuchus, we'll say. Basically, just imagine a little hose going out down to the center of the earth. The center of the earth is molten lava iron core. It will burn anything up and recycle that energy to be used positively somewhere else. So anything that you don't need, want, or isn't yours. And to be honest, most empaths, we are carrying around a laundromat or a storage pod of other people's stuff, right? Emotional baggage. Everyone tends to seek us out and wants to tell us everything. And they feel better because we do take that for them. So making sure that you're clearing that out, pulling your aura in, tucking that into the clearing hose, allowing that to clear as well. And then that's when I do the protection bubbles from there. And I have 3 colors. I do one blue, that's the one closest to the skin. That is for earth energies, humans, people, earth stuff. And then a white bubble about a foot out from the body, that is for spiritual energies. And then a gold bubble with pyramids popping out of it, and that is for universal energies. And I feel like with all of these, the colors are set to specific vibratory intentions. If they look a little off here and there, it happens. It's happened to me. Sometimes they're pink, sometimes they're iridescent. And usually there's other reasons why that occurs. But for the most part, that seems to really work. And it just gives you a little layer of bubble wrap so that when the world is jostling you around like you're in a big box, it doesn't hurt so much. And to be honest, every person that has done my method I haven't heard one person yet tell me I feel like crud after. Everyone either feels the same or better.
And there's a lot of mindfulness and stuff involved with it too, right? And a little bit of meditation
absolutely.
and me time kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously I've been doing this practice for a very long time. So for me, it only takes me a couple moments, but there are times when I want to spend a half an hour and do it very slowly. And I also like to
those colors that you mentioned, sorry, do you use those color stones to do it with or no?
I don't use stones as much as other people do. I love them. I own a ton of them because I am a collector of trinkets, very crow-like. But I don't use stones as much. Once in a while, I'll pick up a stone and use it, usually for something specifically that I'm working on. But I do know people who have as well, and that's fine. What I'm trying to convey is that it doesn't have to be super difficult. It doesn't have to be this giant process you go through that takes you 2 hours of meditation a day to feel better. It's something very, very simple that you can do while you're showering. The easiest way, if you've had a really long and heavy day, and you know this, like you work in healthcare, honey, right? You get it. At the end of the day, when you come home and you've just had nothing but other people's energies and everything at you, and you feel really depleted or sad, whatever it is, right? Take some salt, even if it's regular table salt, doesn't matter. Throw it on the bottom of the shower and then step on the salt. And as the water's washing over you, if you don't have a salt scrub, it's fine. You can make one, but watch that water just take all of that energy that isn't yours and watch it go down the drain.
I love salt scrubs. If y'all haven't tried it, you gotta try it. It is so refreshing.
Oh, I love it. I have expensive ones that smell, divine, and then I have ones that I make myself.
Okay.
It's very simple. You take just salt, a little olive oil, and then a citrus, any kind of citrus, whatever you want. It could be orange juice out of your fridge. And sometimes I'll put in a little bit of rosemary or basil just because I'm feeling a little extra that day. But you mix it together so it makes a paste, and then throw it on the skin, and it's great.
Fun.
Salt transmutes energy. That's the reason why salt is used in so many different spiritual practices.
Yeah, there's so many different Epsom salts too that they have now for,
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you can even mix some stuff with that, right? Now, a lot of people talk about, different sages and things like that that they use to mix with. Is there any particular ones that you use, or?
With sage, I mean, I have regular sage that I grow in the garden. I've got white sage bundles. On occasion, I will burn them. I always, y'all, please, if you're going to do this, please make sure you have windows and doors open. If you're going to send energies and things running about, let them have a place to go. Don't just stir them up in the middle of the room like a little tornado. Give them a place to
Oh,
go.
you have to have a window open?
Yes, yes. If you're going to use sage or burn anything for clearing or use a spray, etc., it has to have an exit. Otherwise, you've just given it a whole bunch of sugar and let it run around in circles, and it's going to make major issues. Because that's
That's
nowhere to go.
interesting to know. Because here in, Newfoundland and Labrador, we get a lot of rain, and now it's soon going to be snow. So, for the folks who don't like opening their doors and windows when it's freezing cold and snowing out, what do you suggest?
Well, okay, so, and I get it, weather is a big thing, but even if it's the worst weather, right, and you can, even if it's a small upstairs window for 4 minutes, walk through the house, move the energy through the house in front of you, right? So you have the smoke in front of you the whole time and you're pushing it out. And then get to whatever door or window that you can open it up, and then push it out. And then you'll take the sage and you'll blow on it so you get that smoke to go outside.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that will help you move that energy out. It's going to definitely take a lot more out of you energetically when you do it that way versus the I'm just going to sage the house, walk around. But again, if you are going to sage or use clearing spray of any sort, have a door or a window open when you're doing it, just so that it has a place to go.
Or
Also,
put your
because
pets on a leash when you're doing it, I guess, right?
yes, absolutely. Or have a doggy door or gate or whatever it is. Yes. And it can be a simple window with a screen that you open up this much. Because I've done that. Sometimes, we get winds around here and, it's not a wonderful thing to have the window wide open while there's like 100-mile-an-hour winds coming
Do
on
you
in the house.
ever have people ask you to sage their animals because they think that something got stuck in them?
It's rare. I've had a couple times where animals been afflicted by something, but not possessed. And usually the animals are your first heads up, right?
Oh
Animals
yeah.
and
To me, they're your friend. They're the ones who let you know, hey, there's something over there, or
yes.
they have a
Yeah, if
sixth
they
sense.
start staring at something, take a look. I have a bird, and
Okay.
so the other day I come home and I come upstairs and I go to get the bird, and normally she just flies to me or jumps on me. And this time she's on the end of her cage and she's looking down.
Is
And
it
I'm
a
like,
parrot?
she's a cockatiel.
Oh, I love those. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And
I
so
used to
she's
have two
looking
of those.
down.
Yeah.
Oh, they're precious. And so I'm wondering, like, why aren't you coming to me like you normally do? And she keeps looking down. And so I go over by the bed and I look, and there was a giant orange tarantula.
Oh, nice. So she told you about it.
Thank God, because if she had just come to me, I wouldn't have even gone on that side of the room, and it would have been in my bed sleeping. Oh my, I can't even think of it.
I know. I've had to deal with tarantulas too in Texas, and they're no fun. They like to come inside when it rains, right?
So this one apparently comes from Africa. It's
Oh, okay.
rare and it likes to go out of its way to bite people.
Oh,
So
geez.
the fact that it ended up in my house on the
Oh my
second
gosh.
story by my bed makes absolutely no sense. That's for another day. But yes,
Oh,
thank you to my bird for pointing it out. I had to vacuum it, but it was an open vacuum, so it was a see-through canister. It's alive. I had the vacuum outside for 2 days and opened it up, and it is hopefully roaming the neighborhood, happy as a clam somewhere else. It was still alive. I know it's still. I've never watched a vacuum more in my life than that.
who would have thought that tarantulas could be, like, really aggressive, right? Because the one that we had in an office one time turned around and reared up and went like that, and, like,
No,
we all ran away, and it went up in somebody's office chair, and that person came in, we were like, "Yeah, there's a tarantula in your chair." They're like, "Yeah, you're full of baloney." we said, no, there's one in there. So we called maintenance and the dude came and took the chair apart. Yeah, he was in there. Ew.
So for the record, I do not live where tarantulas are. So I don't understand how people do live where tarantulas are. Like by choice. That, yeah. I guess it's like with anything, you like get used to it. I mean, the first time I saw a potato bug, I'd never seen one ever. I literally
Potato bug. What's that?
Oh, gotta look it up. They look like giant ants, and a grasshopper had like a weird baby, but they're huge. They're like a stick of butter and bigger, huge.
No way. Okay.
Yes. So I had never seen one before. And the first time I saw one, it was outside my house and somehow it was dead. And I'm not going to lie, honey. I was screaming that we need to call. I don't even know who it was at the time, but I was like, aliens have invaded. They're like on my front porch and one of them died. And like, we need to call someone. And then the person who was over was like, oh, that's just a potato bug. And I was like, why are you not losing your absolute mind right now? And they're like, because it's a potato bug. And then I looked it up and apparently these things exist. They weren't aliens. But like, that was my reaction because I'd never seen it.
Right? That's funny. No,
so I guess people
I've never heard of it before.
Fine.
Oh my God, I just looked it up. It's gnarly. Ew.
Yeah.
Yeah. The description that you gave was spot on. Here, look, I'll even. Do you want me to show everybody? They're gonna be like,
okay, go ahead. Like,
oh my God. Ew.
Do you see?
I'm gonna take that off the screen. That's just nasty.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sorry, anything but more than 4 legs. Blech.
Yeah.
No thanks.
I mean, it serves a really important function, and that's so wonderful and great. But like, can you imagine? I had never seen one, and to see that dead in my front yard, I was like, oh my. I'm now like the new Roswell.
I was just gonna say, call movement. They landed somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, again, like for someone who knows what those are, those would be very commonplace, right? But like, I've never seen. I didn't even know they existed, let alone an orange tarantula.
Right. So it's really important. We're going back. We're gonna bring you full circle now. We're gonna come back to protection, not only from weird things that your pets tell you about and that you find in your house, but weird things, paranormal things, right?
Yes. So clearing oneself is extremely important, whether it's just your daily life, whether you're going paranormal investigating, whether you're watching something, scary that has those kind of negative forces behind it, whatever the reason may be, it is important. We are energetic beings, and therefore it's extremely important that you keep your energy clean and clear. I mean, you shower and bathe every day, so why wouldn't you be cleaning out your energy on a daily basis?
True that, for sure.
Spiritual hygiene.
Spiritual hygiene. That's a good one. And then they talk about sleep hygiene and stuff like that too. You got all kinds of different ones. So tell us a little bit more about what you do and some more about your work.
Well, I am an energy and entity cleaner and clearer, which is a nice fancy way to basically say exorcist. I also am a metaphysical teacher. I'm a psychic. I'm a non-denominational minister and the psychic specialist for a paranormal investigative group. I am a lot of things. So I got a lot of boxes clicked. There isn't necessarily like a name that you can call me that's all inclusive. So it's just JJRose777. But
and 777, I think I asked you that before. That was for luck, right? Or no?
No, It's to honor the 7 levels that we exist on below, as well as the 77 levels that we exist on above. The 77th, the highest, being one with source, God, universe, whatever word you want to use for it, spirit. And as we exist here, as above, so below, and above, a lot of people forget all about. There's a lot of old knowledge in a lot of the old sayings and writings.
Yeah, that people mention that a lot, as above, or as like you just said.
Mhm.
Definitely. So if people wanna, like, reach out to you and, look for help and things like that, what do you recommend?
So it all depends if this is calls to you for any reason. My YouTube channel is JJRose777. All my socials are on there. I know Jen will be kind enough to put my link tree on here, which has every way to get a hold of me you've ever wanted. Instagram and email are typically the best. I am on TikTok and Facebook. I just don't check those as much because there's a lot of spam on there sometimes and it gets a little overwhelming. But if you need a referral or a recommendation, or just this is what I'm dealing with, what did you advise? I'm happy to consult. If it's something I'm able to help with, I will let you know. Usually, I always try to give resources first so people can handle it on their own. I'm really big on self empowerment. But if it's something that no, you're going to need someone else, if it's something that I'm not able to handle, or if I'm not the one for you, which I totally understand, I also do have a wonderful referral system as well to people who I know and personally have vetted. I have more religious people who are actually in clergy, as all the way over to, people who speak other languages and things of that nature, just so that everyone's comfortable.
Yeah, so everybody make sure you check out JJRose777 if you need help. But you had mentioned before, I was wondering, I had a question, when you go in with your team with Paranormal Insight, do you go in separately? You had mentioned they go in before and then you go in after?
Yeah, so I typically am left outside and I blindfold myself. So I'm just tethered to their energy. I don't look at what's going on in the house first. I let them do the tech walkthrough first. Again, just to rule out any physical things that might be. And then they bring me in after they've interviewed the client, etc., so that I am getting a complete blind read.
Blind, right.
And it's not for show so much. It's more to keep me out of everyone else's thoughts on what they think they're dealing with. We've had one
I think
situation where the person was absolutely 100% sure it was this. And then I came in there blind and was like, oh, it's this. Very, very simple and easy to deal with. And
Yeah, I
then,
agree with the whole going in blind thing and not having the history or the names and all that kind of stuff, especially for the medium, because then it kind of, really substantiates it stronger because you haven't heard them say anything about the house or the history or the names or what they
yes.
think or their theories, right?
Yeah, and the other thing too is, we're people, right? Whether it's the psychic medium, whoever is on the team. And if you're already getting all this pre-information from the experiences different people have had, you're coming in with a certain filter on,
Mm.
and you're not giving the truest, most honest read. And yes, I know people love to tell their story and they want to be heard, and there's time for all of that after. But if you're calling us, right, like our team specifically, it's not because, oh, you just want people to verify what you have. You have usually an issue that needs to be remedied. You want it gone. We're not going to places like of historical places where people want to keep the entities there. We tend to go on the more, please make it leave. And there was one time Tim got a call, and the person, 100% sure, they knew that it was whatever it was, some entity, and it was messing with them. And everyone in the house was seeing stuff, and it was afflicting everyone, and it'd be going on for a week. And I told Tim, let me just remote. He called me and said, hey, would you have time to do this tomorrow? And I said, before anything, let me just check out the space. I never ask the location or anything. I just go and I check it out. And I said, hey, tell them that on the side of their house, there's a gas leak. And actually the gas people are over there right now fixing it. So they're having a reaction to, carbon dioxide. And I mean, it's like 10 p.m. and these people are fighting him on the phone. He said, do me a favor, just please go outside. And they go outside and they look, and there's the gas company. But I mean, these people were ready to pay a church organization $500 to come out because they knew what it was.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad we could save
It's
them the
good,
money.
that you found that part out, because like you said, it could be Occam's razor, the most simply and easiest explanation. And I like to debunk and make sure, well, is this really what they think it is? Could be that or this, right? So yeah, there's so many different things involved. So with your clairs, tell me about your clairs or when you do your mediumship. All of the above. Wow.
Yes. Yeah, it's a little overwhelming at times.
Yeah, I was going to say, you must have to do a lot of grounding and cleansing and alone time yourself just to get away from all that.
And now you see why I have an entire video channel on how to do this stuff yourself, because it's so important for me. And I'm not the only one. I know countless people who maybe they're more proficient in a few different clairs, but they get the other ones from time to time. And if you're getting all of them during a solar flare window when everyone's stuff is heightened, it can be really, really intense and overwhelming. Yeah. So it is important just to have it. And also, when you're able to filter out the quote unquote spiritual noise that's occurring, your information comes in so much clearer. Instead of it sounding like someone has 50 radios on when you're in a space, right? Like I'm able to just hone into exactly what I need to. So yeah, sometimes I'm going to get hits on residual stuff that doesn't matter as much. But if someone's asking me for a consult, okay, here's your main issue, right? Like turn the water off. You've got a plumbing leak. But at the same time, you've also got like mold in the bathroom and the kitchen, right? So it's just giving people a heads up as to here's the main issue, and then here's some side things that might be problematic in the future if they're not dealt with.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many things are medical related or easily explained away and not paranormal, right? I mean, there's only a small percentage of them that actually are paranormal. I'm sure you've figured that out in your realm of work also, right? But then there's those things that are just unexplained.
There are, and I am as skeptical as I am a believer, obviously, right? Because I have
me too.
All of this and I see and feel all of it. So we had one case, there was a lot happening in the home. And I mean, the laundry list this poor client had given was huge. I think it was like 4 pages of handwritten notes. Wow. And that was just on the phone conversation, right? To get us to maybe go. And so we get there and, I'm prepared for everything at this point. And I walk through and okay, there was one little area of the house that I was like, okay. And the tech walkthrough took 3.5 hours. That part alone without me was 3.5 hours just to make sure everything was covered. House was fine. Everything was working, functional. And I get in there. Okay, there's one little space. It's a little something weird. It's like a little trinket they had bought, right? That had some residual. But I turned and I looked at the host and I said, have a seat. And we sat down. I said, in reality, you're psychic. And this stuff is coming to you to try and talk with you and wake you up. And you're afraid of it. And so then it tries to be really gentle. but then it has to like knock on your door because you're going to be working with this stuff. And we ended up having a whole conversation about that, and everything was great afterwards. All the annoying stuff wasn't happening anymore because they just accepted it and they understood. And in reality, it had been happening for half of their life. They just misunderstood, thinking, oh, something was trying to mess with them, when in reality, it was just saying, like, hi, I'm here. I know you can see me and sense me, but like, acknowledge me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I'm sure a lot of people get that for sure. Yeah.
So many
So,
people have gifts.
so would you want to give a shout out to your fans?
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Oh, come on. You know you got a lot.
I am extremely blessed that I have more than just my mom. But I'm also humbled, and I know I'm not huge, and I'm absolutely okay with that. To anyone and everyone who got me this far, to all of you that I know are listening, I just want to give you the most sincere love and appreciation for listening to me and being with me on this insanely intense journey. And just how proud it makes me that everyone is doing big things and is growing and putting light and love out there in the world and getting people more unified and accepting of the paranormal and of the other side.
Well, keep doing what you're doing, JJ. I mean, you're doing a great work for everybody, and we really appreciate it, and we all love you.
Thank
Follow
you.
JJ Rose, everybody. Okay, we're gonna peace out. We're gonna stop the recording. We're gonna do a quick off-air chat.